tonight. We find our light, battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey, everyone. How you doing today on this sunny Saturday? At least it is here in Michigan. Welcome to Surviving Together, a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and build community on their healing journeys, as well as providing trauma-related education for all. I'm so glad that you guys could join me today. So far, we have Indigo is here under her other channel name, Hallison, and Deidre Gore is here. Hello. Polak, welcome this afternoon. It's glad to see you. Yeah, so today I have the subject to talk about betrayal trauma. Before I get into that, I just want to address Deidre. I'm so sorry that you've been having a hard couple of weeks. Let's send some hugs and prayers out to Deidre as well as my friend David. He's been having a real tough time lately as well. So hugs and love and prayers and light to anyone out there who needs it. You know that you guys are all in good company here. It's a fabulous community, so supportive. Please reach out if you need support, if you need additional connection. You can always email me, survivingtogether@gmail.com, or reach out to anybody else who is here in the community. Everybody is more than willing to lend a hand, an ear, a shoulder, kind of virtual shoulder, whatever you need. So, yes, betrayal trauma. It's a really interesting topic. And I'm not sure if I'll get to the second part. Kind of depends on how long it takes us to get through the first part. But it affects kids differently than it affects adults. I mean, very similarly, but there's just something additional that goes with betrayal trauma when you're talking about a child-parent relationship where you can't disconnect from the person who betrayed you because you're reliant on them for your survival, right? So it affects kids even deeper. And betrayal trauma and CPTSD are very similar. In the psychological world, they are separate. They've got, separate symptoms listed, but they're very similar. They're very overlapping. And one thing that or that they have found, they being the psychologists, have found is that pretty much everyone with CPTSD has some form of betrayal trauma in that. Now, I'm not going to say everybody because everyone's traumatic situation that led to their CPTSD is different. However, a lot of kids, and I'm just going to use kids here, a lot of kids experience betrayal trauma because usually the abuse or neglect that led to their CPTSD is by somebody who is very close to them, who they have a bond with of some sort. So a lot of adult CPTSD, you're absolutely going to have betrayal trauma because most of it is going to come from some sort of intimate partner relationship. Jimena, how are you doing? Crystal, I'm glad you joined us. James, thank you for being here. I'm glad to see all of you. So I have a couple videos too that I want to share with you guys today. And instead of me just talking at you and kind of just listing all the symptoms and how we heal, uh, Psych to Go is one of my favorite sites for bringing difficult topics to you in a nice way because it's all animated. And so I have a couple of videos that I want to share with you about that. But let's talk about what is betrayal trauma. So, betrayal trauma is when you have an emotional and physiological impact um, from experiencing betrayal of deep trust. And so usually this is going to be an intimate partner, a family member, or a close friend. And when that person betrays that trust, it's such a violation for us. And the trust disintegrates, you know? And usually this betrayal, this deception, um, it happens over a period of time. It can be from one instance, but usually it's something like a cheating partner. And you find out not only have they been cheating, but they've been cheating for years. Or you found out they cheated once, but you've been together for a long period of time. And so it totally ruptures your foundation. And this can be something like broken promises, somebody of a close friend who broke your confidence. You told them something in secret, something in confidence that you thought that they would keep secret, and they didn't. That can be, that can result in a betrayal trauma. This can also be from someone who, let's say, is addicted to pornography or drugs, where your sense of self worth is trampled on essentially. Because as anybody knows with addiction, you're no longer going to be put in a priority within that relationship. The addiction is always going to take precedence. And so there's again your foundation of what you knew, of what you thought your relationship was with this person is totally gone, right? So it is in some ways almost uh, no, I don't want to use those words. I don't want to say it's a worse trauma, but it is definitely a trauma that can be more difficult to recover from because of the enormity of the sense of loss that you go through with this. And I think you can see from my explanation of what betrayal trauma is, how most kids with CPTSD are going to experience betrayal trauma because whether it is emotional or physical neglect or abuse or sexual abuse, um, this usually is by somebody who's close to us. Remember, the stats are like 95%. of kids who are abused are done so by somebody who is either a family member or a close friend of the families, and family member can be extended family. And so there's a bond there of some sort. And when that bond is broken, when the trust, the foundation is just totally eroded by having this person break your trust by abusing you or chronic neglect, it is a deep betrayal that kids don't know how to wrap their minds around, because again, they're often still reliant on that person for either survival, just, I mean, actual survival. This is the person who houses me, this is the person who feeds me, or an emotional support. Say it's a family friend who's been grooming this child for a long time. There's a deep emotional connection, and it may be the only person they felt safe with. And so when that safety is compromised and they're abused in some form, it can lead to an extreme conflict within the child because they still seek that comfort, but yet that trust has been violated. So it is absolutely devastating, for anybody who goes through betrayal trust. And just, I'll go through briefly kind of some of the symptoms that you might see, and then I have a video that I'm going to play, and it's going to go through the signs, and we're going to talk through it. I might stop it here and there to add some things as we go. So you'll see what it's talking about. What the video goes through is, first and foremost, you're going to feel an intense sense of loss of that relationship, loss of trust, deep sadness, usually, because our world has been turned upside down, inside out, and shaken for good measure, right? When we have this sort of trust betrayed in such a fundamental way. You've also got the shame and the guilt and the self-blame that comes along with it. A lot of times, we can think, what did I do? What could I have done? What did I miss? So all those feelings wrapped up, going, is there something wrong with me that caused my partner to cheat? What signs did I miss? Were there red flags in my relationship that should have told me that I couldn't trust this person? What's going on here? Our brains are going to try and wrap itself around something that seems so incongruous. Is that a word? Um, Here's this person that we trusted on a with our deepest emotions, and they've betrayed that. How could that happen? What else did I miss? Are they lying about other things? And especially when it comes to, say, a partner betrayal, if you've got kids involved, you might have to still co-parent. So the difficulty from separating yourself from this person who betrayed you can be very complicated. And as you can see with children, that's, exactly the case. Fear, anxiety, everything that we normally associate with trauma, people who experience betrayal trauma are going to go through as well. In addition to incongruous, I know it just seemed like it needed another something on it to make it work in my sentence. Maybe I'm just totally off on that. But yes, thank you, Deaudrey. In addition, there is incredible grief that goes along with betrayal trauma because we're grieving what was, whether that was your marriage, your intimate relationship, your close friendship, or simply the foundation of the person who you thought loved you unconditionally. All of a sudden, that's seeming like there may be still that there may be now conditions upon that relationship. So there's an immense feeling of grief, and that grief process needs to be worked through in addition to just the trauma of the betrayal. So that's why I say it's can be more complicated for someone to recover from a betrayal trauma because you've got this additional aspect in terms of this grief process that you need to go through that isn't there with other experiences that result in trauma. Jimena says, I separated from my addict husband. Best decision, but it was heartbreaking. Absolutely. You know, you're you're ending something, and there is just that human factor where we want to try and fix things. If only I was better, right? If only I did this, if only I did this, if only I did this. But there's only so long that we can do that to ourselves before we have to come to the acceptance that the problem is with the other person and that it's not with us. And that's how we always say the shame does not belong on our shoulders. We do not need to carry that guilt. It belongs totally with the other person. All right. So I want to play this video. It's how to, or it's the signs of, I should say, it's the signs of betrayal. And it's animated, so it's a lot fluffier. Love my nails, by the way. Thank you. I did it on Wednesday or something, and so the tips are kind of coming off, and I'm like, oh, I should probably redo that before tonight. A friend of mine is coming in town, and he's taking me out to dinner, so I'm so excited to go to it, and I'm like, no one's gonna look that close at it. All right, let's see if I can add this. I might take my earbuds off because I think something's up with my microphone and I'm not able to hear what I'm playing very well. But here we go. Let me make sure. Okay. Got it at 1.5, and I'm pretty sure that that'll be okay for you guys.
Trusting someone takes a lot of courage, especially if you've been burned in the past.
Okay, maybe not. That's seeming like it's a lot faster than thought.
Trusting someone takes a lot of courage, especially if you've been burned in the past. You may have had a parent, partner, or friend abandon you out of the blue. They may have done something behind your back. You may have shared something private with them and they betrayed your trust by sharing it with others, and you're left with this uneasy feeling that leads you to stop trusting people altogether. This lack of trust is often a result of betrayal trauma. The term betrayal trauma was first coined in 1991 by American psychology researcher and theoretician Jennifer Freyd. According to her, betrayal trauma occurs when the people or institutions on which a person depends for survival significantly violate that person's trust or well-being. You're not crazy, too sensitive, or overreacting, because symptoms of betrayal trauma are emotional responses to a genuine feeling of violation you experienced, and you have every right to feel wronged or hurt. Trauma takes many forms in adult life, so it's important to register potential trauma symptoms. Here are 6 signs you may suffer from betrayal trauma. Anxiety. Through careful research, Dr. Freyd has determined that how people respond to betrayal trauma depends on the person and the details of the experience. But we do see common reactions, including anxiety, depression, and dissociation in victims of betrayal trauma.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep
Sorry,
track
guys,
of all
I
my
don't
tasks.
have premium.
I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done.
According to the ADAA, individuals who have experienced trauma may experience anxiety in a variety of forms, from an increase in generalized worries to panic attacks. For example, a person who suffers from betrayal trauma may experience severe anxiety when confronted by the person that betrayed them in the first place, and feels a strong desire to hide or run away. Even mere reminders of the person can cause a victim of betrayal trauma to spiral at times. Integrative trauma therapist and scholar Odelia Gretel Craybill agrees that anything that looks, sounds, smells, or feels like things experienced at the time of trauma can trigger fear that danger has returned. Just because your life wasn't in danger does not mean that what you experienced was any less traumatic. Avoidance. When someone you love hurts you or betrays your trust, you may likely want to avoid them or discard any memory of them. You may become agitated or angry whenever a reminder of them pops up and take your frustrations out on whoever or whatever brought them to mind. According to licensed psychology and trauma specialist Dr. Rebecca Craycraft, trauma survivors often feel the pull to avoid their trauma and just move on. It's perfectly reasonable to want to move on, but when it becomes clear you are simply burying your feelings and brushing aside the pain you experienced, it becomes a problem. If every reminder becomes a trigger, it's time to seek help and process the trauma. And to process the trauma means you must master it. How? Craycraft says that gaining mastery over your trauma means not being triggered by things that remind you of the traumatic event anymore. Yes, it sounds easier said than done, but if these triggers constantly interfere with your life, it's important to address them. Trust issues. Someone you love may have taken advantage of your trust one day, so you may have decided to stop trusting people. You may meet someone new, question their motives instinctively, and have been constantly told that you have trust issues. Licensed psychologist and relationship expert Shirley Glass insists that immediate relationships are contingent on honesty and openness. They're built and maintained through our faith that we can believe what we are being told. From the time we're young, we're taught to rely and trust others, but what happens when someone we learn to trust betrays us unexpectedly? Since mutual trust is key in any healthy relationship, relationships lacking trust often fall apart and develop trust issues, which is normal after a serious violation of your trust.
So I wanted to address just a couple of comments in regards to trust. Indigo says, I have to remind myself that person B is not person A, but it's hard to trust again when I see the same patterns repeat. Absolutely. And this is, one of the things with trust and trying to rebuild trust, especially after betrayal, is you need to start small. You need to rely on your inner circle, rely on the people who you feel you can still trust, and you need to be extremely careful in setting boundaries for yourself. And those boundaries can expand the more we learn to trust again. But initially, they may be fairly close to you, and that's okay. That's what you need for healing. In healing, though, those boundaries have to continue to move out. Otherwise, we're never going to be able to let anybody in. But setting boundaries is extremely important when you're trying to heal from betrayal trust and betrayal trauma and rebuild trust again. Hi, Sven, how you doing? Judge said, in terms of the triggering, this reminds me of the time I saw my ex on campus, and without any thought, I just turned around and left the building. Yeah, avoidance is extremely common in most forms of trauma. When we experience significant trauma, when we're still in the beginnings of healing, it is natural to want to avoid person, place, things that remind us of that person. And in betrayal trauma, creating a safe space is going to be critical for us. And oftentimes that's going to mean cutting contact, at least temporarily, with that person who betrayed you. Unfortunately, sometimes that's not possible, as in the parent-child situation, as in where it may be your intimate partner, it may be you're somebody you've got a child with, and just because of circumstances, you have to see that person or talk to that person, even if it's through text, on a fairly regular basis. And that is extremely difficult when we're in the beginnings of this and we're trying to heal from betrayal trauma. And that's why I say setting up your boundaries is so key to creating that safe space for us and doing whatever we can to protect that safe space. Now, again, that needs to be a temporary measure in terms of how insulated we are with our safe space, because isolation, as the video was just talking about, is so common for most of us with trauma. It's comforting. We can control our environment. We know exactly what's going on around us, but it's also the opposite of connection, and connection is what we need as human beings. Now, you may decide that you're never going to connect up with your betrayer again, and that's okay. But not allowing anybody in, totally isolating ourselves, is only going to hurt us in the long run. Okay, we just got a couple more minutes of this video. Hey, Clint, how's it going?
Negative, intrusive thoughts. The ADAA argues that individuals who have experienced trauma may also internalize the event and have subsequent negative thoughts about themselves, or they may generalize the event and have negative thoughts about the world. Those who have suffered from a personal betrayal will often blame themselves and suffer from recurring, intrusive, self-deprecating thoughts that leave them feeling drained and hopeless. Clinical psychologist Melissa Platt says that victims of betrayal trauma will often believe they are bad because they feel bad and because shame is a normal survival response to experiencing betrayal trauma. But they are not usually aware that that is the case. As Platt said, shame is a natural and normal response in this situation. Someone you loved and trusted betrayed you, and you may feel inclined to blame yourself or ask yourself, what did I do wrong? According to Platt, survivors of betrayal trauma need to understand that these symptoms are signs that their mind was trying to help them survive, rather than signs that there is anything wrong with them. Instead of blaming yourself, take the time to acknowledge your feelings without letting them consume you. Withdrawal. As a result of the betrayal, you may withdraw from your friends and family and self-isolate to avoid being hurt again. You may feel like there's no one left that you can trust, and you see the world as a dark place filled with people who want to hurt you. Craybill describes withdrawal as an instinctive and often helpful reaction to threats of almost any kind. However, when withdrawal pushes us away from our existing support system, it can increase the risk of anxiety and depression developing. According to Craybill, as soon as a traumatic event passes, most survivors experience a more or less irresistible urge to withdraw to a safe, quiet place to protect themselves from further harm. You may feel like hiding is the best way to stay safe, but having your friends, family, and others you love near you will help you heal better in the long run. Trauma psychologist Remy Coker says that your support system is vital for giving you a reality check, that what you think is going on really is going on, and reminding yourself that there are still trustworthy people in the world. Rumination. Contrary to an earlier sign, not all victims of betrayal trauma want to move on or practice avoidance. Clinical psychologist and professor at Yeshiva University, Sabrina Romanoff, says, what makes betrayal trauma so painful is that the person who is betrayed often cannot simply sever their relationship with the perpetrator. For example, the relationship may have ended, but the perpetrator may always be on your mind. You may find yourself remembering the good times and wondering, what if I had tried harder or been a better partner? You may hold on to mementos like trinkets or photos that remind you of the person in question and make up scenarios where the betrayal never happened. But part of you cannot forget the hurt you experienced. You may feel convinced you need to know why your partner betrayed you to fix things or find closure. But licensed counselor and sex therapist Alan J. Katz and licensed marriage and family therapist Michelle Safier insist that those who continue to be consumed by seeking information are tortured, not by the behavior, but by their unrelenting quest to uncover all of the lies. Unfortunately, finding out the truth can't guarantee you peace of mind. You may never find all the answers you're looking for, but you can be kind to yourself and allow yourself to move on with the help of friends, family, and those you love and trust. Trauma affects us all differently.
Okay, that's it for that particular video. I think that, it's really important. Deaudre says, oh, why did I miss so many red flags, right? It is natural for us as human beings to look inside and say, did I do something that caused this? psychologically for ourselves, it's easier to blame ourselves. It's easier to say, I must have done something or I must have missed something than because we have a sense of control then, right? Versus taking that off of ourselves and putting it where it belongs on the abuser, on that betrayer. And a lot of us, when especially in intimate partner relationships, and especially if you feel like your relationship is based on trust and open communication, we don't see the red flags because we believe something else about our relationship. There's a certain paradigm that we operate on. And to see those red flags would mean we would have to shift that paradigm. And so things that are suspicious, if they're even somewhat explainable, that's what we'll do. That's what we'll choose to believe. Additionally, a lot of people who are the betrayers are very good at gaslighting, manipulating things. They can be narcissists, they can be psychopaths. Their skill is being able to kind of mold reality to what they want it to seem like. So when you're also dealing with somebody who has that potential skill set, and you're on the other end wanting to believe the best of this person, wanting to believe that 15 years of marriage has meant something, that you've had a good relationship, it's much easier for us to let things slide. Hey, Crystal Phoenix, how are you doing? So, you know, trauma, betrayal trauma in general is not really any different from experiencing other forms of trauma in terms of the types of internal symptoms that we'll have, right? As the video mentioned, intrusive thoughts, whether that's negative thoughts coming through, whether that's constant rumination. And one thing I want to mention about the rumination, we can get stuck in our own heads very easily, and particularly when it's a betrayal. I can see how there would be this deep-seated need to uncover the whole truth. Why did they do that? What else did they lie to me about? Was anything right about this? And we can do this with other forms of trauma as well, of wondering, how it happened and why it happened. And there comes a time where we do have to say enough's enough, or I have the information that I have now, and continuing on this road is only causing difficulty in and of myself. And being willing to let the rest go, and knowing that we may never know all the answers. Because especially when your trust has been broken with somebody, if they tell you something, are you necessarily even going to believe them? So you're wanting to find out the truth about something, yet you don't even know if you can trust what's coming out of their mouth. So it can kind of be a circle of, how else do I validate this information? Flashbacks, trouble concentrating, the avoidance that we've mentioned, avoidance behaviors, being hypervigilant, difficulty setting boundaries or and trusting again, all very common symptoms of people with betrayal trust, as well as the physical aspects, sleep disturbances, nightmares, having trouble sleeping, having trouble falling asleep, fatigue or exhaustion, as well as just physical tension in your body, headaches, GI issues, gastrointestinal issues, all brought about by the immense increase in stress that our bodies are under because of the trauma that we've suffered. Oh, Crystal, I'm so sorry you're suffering a panic attack. Oh, getting ready to see my girls. Oh, breathe, right? Breathe. Breathe and think good thoughts. That's the best I got for you. Okay? You can get through this. It's exciting that you're getting ready to see your girls. Do you already have to drive? If so, you can use that drive time to try and decompress a little bit. But this should let's hope that this goes well. I've got my fingers crossed from you. Krista says, I know someone who refuses to leave her abusive husband, even though she knows he's abusive. She says she won't leave him because of the financial stuff that would have to be divided. Yeah, this is really an unfortunate situation for a lot of people who are in abusive relationships, whether that's emotional, physical, sexual, intimate partner relationships where there's financial abuse going on as well, or even if it's just that, one person is the moneymaker, even if there's not actual financial abuse going on, starting over and not having that support, especially for people who say have been a stay-at-home parent, and so they've got a good lapse in their job history, that can seem just a monument that they don't think that they can climb over. And that is definitely the case, unfortunately, for some people. There are services out there, but it does take a lot of planning. And I can only just send prayers out to the person who's in that situation. So hugs and love. Absolutely, Crystal Phoenix. Hugs and love to you as well. And just, wishing you the best. And I'll look forward to hearing how the meeting went. So, all right. I want to play part of the next video because this kind of goes through what I would speak about in terms of how do we recover from betrayal trauma. And in essence, it's no different than what we've spoken about in terms of other trauma. Um, Seek your support system. This is going to be especially important with betrayal trauma because having people there that you can trust, who you feel that you can still trust, uh, it can be critical in knowing that just because one person broke that trust doesn't mean that everybody is not worthy of trusting. But like I said, betrayal trust is something special in terms of recovering from, because there is this deep sense of loss, the grief process that you need to go through with it. And some people in your support system may become weary of trying to support you. And it's a level of caregiver fatigue. It doesn't mean that they don't care about you or that they don't love you. It just can be a point where they don't know what to do for you anymore or how to support you anymore. And if you feel that that is coming from your support system, if you don't have professional help, I highly recommend that you seek professional help, and that professional help is trauma informed. informed, that they're a trauma-informed therapist, because they're going to be best able to guide you through this type of recovery process. So, as I said before, allowing yourself to go through that grief process is going to be critical. Excuse me. Trying to just move on and say, okay, well, they busted that they busted that trust, and you cheated on me, and I'm just going to move on here. No, you need to address that grief that goes along with saying goodbye to that relationship. Again, whether that relationship is a friendship, a family member, um, or an intimate partner. And then there's the other things that we talk about with trauma, practicing self-compassion, developing coping skills, practicing mindfulness, journaling, yoga, grounding techniques, all of the standard things that we speak about. And I need to not use that, because I need to remember that not everybody has actually watched this before, or been through any of the trauma talk that we've been doing. So I try, if it seems like it's a little repetitive, it's because I never know who's coming in for the first glance here. Yeah, and patience and persistence. Because, like we said, there's a lot going on with betrayal trauma. You've got the grief, you've got rebuilding trust again, and you've got all the internal feelings that you're dealing with. So, patience, self compassion, giving yourself grace, and just keeping at it. And really, that's the message with all of our trauma, is that we have to keep practicing our coping skills. We have to keep working through it until eventually those things that triggered us in the past aren't triggering anymore. And we don't have to avoid that restaurant because that reminds us of our first date with that person. Or we can keep walking on that campus when we see that person, and we can just walk on by. But it takes a lot, and the recovery path can be long. And so staying with it, realizing that you are healing every day, even if it doesn't seem like it, even if it's small, um, is really important. Fear of starting over. Yeah, exactly. The fear of the unknown can be paralyzing, and definitely more scary than what we do know. As Crystal Phoenix says, the hell they are in. Fearing the unknown, how I'm going to provide for myself, or how am I going to provide for also for my children if you've got them to take with you as well. Where am I going to go? If you don't have family members that you can go to, because everyone's situation is different. All right, I'm going to figure out how to get this last video up, and then I am going to save. I've got some things to show you in terms of talking about betrayal trauma, particularly from a child parent aspect. And I think I'll save that one for another video, because that's going to put me well into hour 2. And I just don't have the time today to go real long. But let's share this. All right, here we go.
Whether it's a cheating partner, broken promises, or deception from family and friends, betrayal is heartbreaking. And our bodies react in ways that make it even harder to cope. To manage the shock, your mind goes into survival mode, fight or flight response, which triggers a significant increase in stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. The symptoms that follow include anxiety, depression, sleepless nights, self-isolation, flashbacks, and a deep sense of loss. And in all this chaos, you might even wonder if you could have done something to prevent it. But the truth is, none of it was your fault. Healing from this kind of pain may take time, but you can do it. Let's talk about how you can heal gradually and start living happily. Find safety. This involves distancing yourself both physically and emotionally from the person who hurt you.
What would you say to somebody that hasn't tried therapy before?
Just ask yourself if what you're doing in your life right now,
At least for a while. And the truth is, you have to create that safe space for yourself. Set boundaries with them, even if drastic measures need to be taken, like cutting off contact completely. Think of it like this. If you've been bitten by a snake, would you keep chasing it, seeking for answers and validation? No. You'd focus on treating the wound instead. In the same vein, it's important to focus on healing rather than dwelling on the source of your pain. Mourn the loss. Many cultures
Easier said than done, but I really like that analogy of, if you were bit by a snake, would you continue to chase after it and try and get answers from it? It's, really, it is very similar. We need to focus in on ourselves and not the source of the pain then, and creating our safe space, especially in the immediate aftermath of betrayal trauma, is extremely important, and setting those boundaries where we feel comfortable.
set aside quality time for mourning, offering a structured approach to reflection and healing. You're not
100%.
only grieving your loss, but also the future you imagined, the trust that's been shattered, and the person you were before this happened. So let your emotions flow, whether it's anger, sadness, or confusion. There's no wrong feeling in this phase. Journaling, venting, or creative outlets are all healthy ways to express your pent-up emotions. Also, consider connecting with a therapist or support group to receive professional help. Take it day by day. Some days you'll feel ready to move on. On other days, you might feel stuck and question if you'll ever feel like yourself again, and that's okay. Healing isn't a straightforward journey. When you feel strong, use that day to get things done. And on tougher days, take extra special care of yourself. Let go gradually at your own pace. The key is to keep going, even on the hard days. Forgive when you're ready. The person most hurt by unforgiveness, anger, and grudges is you. Once you feel a sense of safety and have begun the work of healing, consider forgiveness. Not as a way to excuse the betrayal, but as a way to set yourself free. Start with yourself. Forgive yourself for not seeing the signs or for any choices that you regret. You're human, and we are all learning, always. Then when you're ready, forgive them. This doesn't mean you let them back into your life or that you condone what they've done, but letting go of resentment can lift an enormous weight off of you. Think of it this way. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison, hoping it'll hurt the other person, but it only keeps hurting you. Sometimes forgiveness is about setting yourself free and allowing space for healing. Hope. To manage
Whoop. Sorry, I just meant to pause it. Okay. I wanted to pause it on that because we were just talking about this the other day, right? With forgiveness, and a way of thinking about forgiveness in terms of ourselves. And I think it's critical what they said in the video is that forgiveness is about you. It's about setting yourself free. It's not about condoning the actions of the other person. It's not about letting them back into your life. It is about getting rid of all of those negative feelings, that resentment, that the weight that we carry when we harbor negative feelings towards somebody else. And when we do that, we are free to not only move forward with our healing, almost with a newfound purpose, or, a new feeling of lightness, but once we have gotten rid of something, we open up space for us to put in the good stuff. And I had never heard of, well, I had heard of this. I only know because I'd seen the name of this Hawaiian practice, but I didn't know exactly what it was. And I love it. It is something that I want to try. So listen to this as to what this Hawaiian practice, I won't even attempt to say the name. And let me know in the comments if you try this Hawaiian practice. I'm certainly going to. I love the idea of it.
Try the Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono. This is a meditation that helps you feel
Ho'oponopono.
whole again. Place your hands over your heart. Close your eyes and gently picture the person you want to forgive, whether it's them or even yourself. Slowly repeat these 4 phrases. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Practicing this for 5 to 10 minutes daily will help you release the emotional weight you've been carrying. Remember, forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, one that frees you from the heavy chains of hurt and offense. If you're
I think of those 4 phrases, and if you're saying it to yourself, I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry. And I forget the other one. And thinking of that for yourself, and just repeating those phrases and trying to internalize that, and doing that for 5 minutes. I really like that thought. And I think that you can, if there's another phrase that you want to substitute, if substituting something like I am valuable or I have worth, or something else that equates to the same type of sentiment, you can do that as well. But having a few key phrases to remind yourself on a daily basis, I can do this. I love that thought.
finding this helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Calm your nervous system. Studies show that experiencing loss can trigger harmful emotional and behavioral patterns. When you feel the urge to escape your feelings through substances or unhealthy coping mechanisms, it's essential to manage these triggers. Find a quiet space and breathe deeply until you feel relaxed. In addition, consider taking a warm bath with baking soda, Epsom salts, and essential oils to soothe your body. Joining a restorative yoga class or getting regular massages can alleviate migraines and neck pain. In essence, prioritize self-care and treat yourself with compassion. Stay connected to the world. It's natural to want to numb the pain with distractions like TV, alcohol, or work. However, research shows that this can lead to depression and isolation because healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in a community. Every new connection, no matter how shallow, can help you feel less alone. Be open to new experiences by exploring friendships, hobbies, or dreams. Say yes to small opportunities that spark your curiosity. These help you recognize that life still has good things to offer, even when it feels hard to believe. Healing doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means putting it behind you and learning to live fully despite it. Gradually, rebuild trust.
Again, sorry guys.
Healing usually involves
I'm stopping it for just a second because Deaudrey had a comment here. I can never get this one particular person out of my life because my parents are still close friends with his parents. They still have pictures of us together in his house. Yeah, and that's really unfortunate. Hopefully you can or have been able to move beyond the pain, beyond the trauma, to where it may not be comfortable to be around those pictures, but you can focus on being with your parents and not have that be the focus. whatever boundaries you set in terms of seeing your parents when those people aren't around. However, you need to set that up so that you can minimize contact with that person if that's what you need. So I hope for the best for you. I'm not sure where you are in your healing process with that person.
Involves overcoming that inner resistance to trust again. Here's how you can overcome it. Begin by asking yourself, what has this taught me about myself or my values? This might reveal the importance of setting boundaries or recognizing red flags. Jot these insights down, as reflective journaling can enhance your mental health. Focus on lessons learned, not regrets, and choose to emerge stronger and smarter from this experience.
I think this is really important to note, and sorry for stopping so often, guys, but really looking at our trauma and saying, what can I learn from this? We are going to come out different on the other end of our trauma, but that does not mean less than. It just means different. When we say reflect on our values, we can say, well, this is important to me, and that is important to me. And that was something that I lost in that relationship. What were the red flags? Knowing them can help us be able to see them more clearly in future relationships. So I think it's really important to reflect on our journey, to reflect on our healing, and to see the lessons that we can learn from this. That takes something that is a horrible experience and can turn at least some positive out of it. Judge, you said it's 25 years and I'm still angry with him. Oh my. Well, maybe you can take some of the lessons of forgiveness that we've been talking about within here, um, to help release yourself from that. Because that anger can only eat at you. It stayed with you for 25 years. And it doesn't mean that you're forgiving that person in terms of, like we said, condoning what they did, but release yourself from that anger, from that negative feeling, to be able to free yourself. It doesn't have anything to do with him. It's about you and freeing yourself from that negative emotion. Remember, those intense and negative emotions, they affect us, and they affect us internally, physically, emotionally. And so if you can utilize some of these things that we've been talking about in terms of starting to, sorry, I have a cat that's cawing at me, in starting to help yourself release that anger, I think that there's power in that healing. So sending you hugs and love, Deaudre. And I know it's easier said than done. Believe me. I mean, I'm not going into any of this and saying, oh, well, why didn't you just, or why can't you just? I know it's hard. But believe me, I know it is hard to get over this kind of stuff. I have had people in my life who I have been betrayed by, who I've held on to that for years and years and years and years. And sometimes it is only time that allows us to have that perspective, and a certain amount of healing needs to take place before we're ready to be able to say, okay, I let this anger go. I know it's not serving any purpose, any positive purpose. And I can do this now. So I hope that for you. Okay, this video is almost over, but we'll listen to the rest of this.
This shifts your self-esteem from a victim to a resilient overcomer. Challenge those all or nothing thoughts like, everyone will betray me, by reminding yourself that not everyone is the same. For example, just because a family member lets you down doesn't mean you have to cut ties with your whole family. Focus on individual actions and behaviors rather than labeling entire groups. Remember, open hearts can also heal. Believe in your heart that someday you will heal from your pain. You'll know you've reached this point when you remember those who betrayed you, not with bitterness, but with the strength to wish them well and move on. Now, it may seem like a distant dream, but with time, self-compassion, and the positive steps we discussed, it can become a reality. In the meantime, process your pain, mourn your loss, actively and mindfully take care of yourself, and gradually rebuild your life. You will surely become stronger, wiser, and ready to embrace life with renewed enthusiasm and purpose. What valuable life lesson have you learned on your healing journey? Let's talk about it in the comments.
Okay. So I really like that video. It encapsulates, everything that I was overviewing. Um, and the end message from that, like I was just saying, is this isn't easy. There is nothing simple about healing from betrayal trauma. It is complicated by the fact that a bond is broken with somebody who we trusted at a deep level. And it's complicated by the fact that we have to grieve that loss. And so there's more involved than other forms of trauma. There's extra steps, extra layers that we have to go through in order to heal from it. But it is possible, just like we're able to heal from our other types of trauma. But it takes work and it takes patience with yourself. And so here's Tigger. He wants to say hi today. He is actually hungry, which is why he is bothering me up here. But Tigger says hi and is wishing you all well. And if you guys have any fur babies, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling a loss of connection from anybody, give them a little extra squeeze. Okay? Give them a little extra squeeze. And how about today for the comments, guys? If you have fur babies of your own, why don't you tell me about them? You say, I've got a cat, or my cat's name is, or I've got a dog, or if you don't have one now, you can tell me what you used to have. If you had somebody who used to be close to you, it's just. So this is Tigger. His brother Moki is somewhere. The last I saw him, he was sitting on a coat of mine. But it's getting a little chillier out here during the morning, especially the early morning. So after he has his post breakfast catatonic, get it, cat, atonic nap, he usually ends up with me, and so he's my work buddy for most of the day. All right, guys. I hope you found that interesting. Like I said, I do have some more material prepared, specifically focusing on betrayal trauma in parent-child context. We'll save that for another show. We'll probably do that maybe Wednesday after next. We'll see. This coming Wednesday will be our next show, and that's our own Indigo twin, Allison, is going to be up with us, and she is going to be talking about her journey to coming to terms with her gender identity, and all of the things that went along the way. We're actually going to be talking tomorrow about that. And it's something that we haven't discussed here at all, but it can be a form of trauma when everything that we thought we knew about ourselves is getting shaken up, and it can be very overwhelming. So we're going to discuss that with Indigo on Wednesday. And then next Saturday is the first Saturday of the month, since today is the 30th. So we are going to have Laugh Saturday. And Body Illusion may be joining us. I don't know. We've been talking because we've been trying to coordinate some stuff. She sent me a great video that I want to do reaction to. Whether she can join me or not, I don't know, but we'll definitely be playing that video. It's got some silly, stupid signs, things that have been either put up on billboards or people have created themselves. From what I watched of it so far, most of them are pretty darn hilarious. And they're ones I haven't shown before, which is actually kind of unique because I know that we've done a lot of that. So we're going to do that. And then I actually have, I think, a compilation. It's animals, and it's animals doing stupid stuff. And I think that most of us have fur babies or have had them, and we'll probably find that pretty funny. So, do you have a tuxedo cat? Oh, nice. And Crystal's name is Patches. Well, if you guys can put that in the comments after the show, I would certainly appreciate it. The algorithm really likes that, and it helps to push these videos out. Because otherwise it just doesn't know to push them out at all. So we just want to get the message out there. Tigger's playing with my mouse. Cat playing with a mouse. Never would have thought, right? All right, guys. I need to end here because I got to jump in the shower, but I love you all. All right. Remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. So hugs and love from me. I will see you on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern with Indigo Twin. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And if you're in the U.S., enjoy your long weekend with Labor Day. And off goes the cat because he knows he's going to get fed here pretty soon. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to a place called Cooper's Hawk, which just has fabulous, fabulous food. So yes, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Remember, surviving together, never alone. Enjoy the outro. Hey, Rick.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain, but we stand, we rise again, stronger now, we break the chain, surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. Every tear, every scar tells the story of who we are. Not just survivors, but warriors too. With love as our armor, we see this through. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Mm.